Wow. So here's what's going on. A, we're both of us set up. B, I have set up for the first time my beautiful new iPhone 14 Pro Max as my webcam, which I've never done before. So I tested this all last night and it worked. But you test everything and then you do it in real life and then it doesn't work. So she was having trouble hearing me and I'm like, oh shit, is it my webcam? And I had problems with the webcam too. So what I've noticed is this will be going and then suddenly I'll freeze and then it'll like catch up. So throughout this little webinar, this is kind of a test run for some of this new technology we're using. I love when old people use technology. Will you please let me know in the comments, hey, you're frozen, or hey, you're very laggy, me or Billy, and let me know. And that'll help me kind of calibrate this. So apologize for the calls. This is great. What's funny is my mom was here in Guadalajara for a few days. Love my mom to death. But when you have people in their 80s like travel abroad and use technology, and it was great. She's like she went to a church and the church didn't have church, and so she lost her internet on her phone. This is like Sunday, and she's like, I don't know where I am. And I said, well, Mom, go somewhere and I'll look on Google Maps where you are. She goes, okay. She goes to like this cafe, and she goes, I'm in this cafe called Cafe Guadalajara, la la la. I said, all right, stay right there. I'll send an Uber. So I look up the cafe, and there's like 25 of them throughout the whole city. I'm like, great. I said, Mom, there's 25. Can you look outside and see where you are and pick another landmark? Well, it was windy, the trees in the way. It was great. So anyway, the joy of technology. Billy, you still hear me, right? Now I'm all nervous.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
All right, cool. All right, that's awesome. That's great. Today, we're going to talk about, and what's interesting is Billy just came off a 90-day business builder call. And I was just telling Billy, hey, don't rush that. That's more important. We love paying customers. So take care of them. This is less important because this is for free. Take care of them and then come in. So Billy and I have only talked briefly about what we're going to talk about today. So really quick, Billy, let's do this. Let's just do this in public. What I want to talk about is business right now, business scaling, either new businesses or existing businesses. Talk about that. Talk about our event. Talk about consulting through you. And really those three things. What do you think? Is that what we should talk about today? That's
sure.
Right. That's right. Okay. All right, cool. We have no slides or anything today because we really wanted to have this more interactive with you guys. So a few things. First of all is we covered two different pieces of this, and Billy, you can jump in. So two aspects of this. One is starting your own business. Let's talk about that for a few minutes, and let's talk about those who already have a business. I want to address both of you because both of you watching this, we have people in both categories in our audience, and I have to hang on, I have to see again. Oh, I have Marina in there. I'm watching the comments because if there are teenagers in the comments, like last time, I'll have to ban them. So just So anyway, it's fun. It's part of the joy of the internet. So let's talk about really quick, Billy, you and I, let's talk about really fast starting a business now, how that's different now than it was maybe 5 years ago, or certainly 10 years ago. And so any thoughts on that? Because I don't want to talk over you, though. You have any thoughts on that first, or do you want me to get rolling with that? You can.
I think it's so much easier now than it's ever been in the history of the universe. Almost every tool that you could need is online. So if there's something you don't know how to do, a process in starting your business, let's say that you're worried about filing your first LLC because it seems a little intimidating. We have webinars up for that. Caleb and I have produced them. Others have produced them. You can YouTube or Google search anything practically and find step-by-step instruction. So the world has just dramatically shifted. And there are also more tools available than ever before in terms of project management and different automations that you can plug into your business to remove some of those day-to-day repetitive tasks. It's a huge benefit that we didn't have a few years ago. We needed to lean more on labor, and now we're able to lean more into technology, which as a startup is incredibly important to keep our budgets, to keep us to a tight budget so that we can grow.
Yes, I have talked about, I am in awe. I don't know how you feel about this. I think we've talked about this once or twice. Like my grandfather, my dad's dad, who started an insurance company back in like the 1950s, what you had to go through in the 1950s to start a company. Can you imagine? So not only did you have no internet, you had to fax. So if you want to like send a letter up to paper, written email. If you were to send an email to someone, you had to type it up on a typewriter. If you didn't know how to type, you had to hire a receptionist. And they know like fractional work or Upwork or subcontractors. You had to work like, you had to hire an employee, full-on employee to type it. And then you had to put it in an envelope and mail it and wait a week, even if it was somewhat local, and then wait a week for the response. And then, you had to like, you didn't have any internet, you didn't have email. So you had to call people or literally go door to door.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in awe of these people who started companies back then. I watched, the reason this is so fresh in my mind, I'm glad you brought this up, is because I just saw a few scenes the other day from the movie Seabiscuit. Wait, it was like 20 years ago.
Oh,
and
sure.
Yeah. And it's a horse movie. So you probably memorized the whole movie, right? Because it's a horse movie, right? Right?
I've seen it and I have the book, but no, I've not memorized it. It's not that good.
Well, you said you don't like movies about horses because they're not accurate.
Correct.
Right?
That one's pretty accurate, but the racing industry is something I can't support. So that's another podcast, guys.
Yeah. So, but there's a scene, the first few scenes is the Jeff Bridges character, how he starts his own business in like the 1910s, 1920s, around like the Henry Ford era. I'm just going, my God, that would have been such a nightmare. That's why it is so difficult for me when I see people on the internet talk about excuses. Well, I can't start a business. I have no money. Or I can't start a business. I don't know how to do anything. That's not an excuse anymore. It's so stupid. Maybe you could have used that excuse before I was born, before the 70s. I mean, 60s, 50s, maybe. I mean, that took an extraordinary person to start a company and make it work back in the 1950s. It really did. Today, I mean, you guys have seen this. You've seen morons on the internet make money, right? You've seen them. I've seen them, not mentioning names, but I've seen idiots, like idiots. I don't mean scammers and liars. I mean morons, people who don't have a lot of skill at all, actually making money, or at least making a living on the internet, because it's not that fucking hard. Exactly. I know. What else?
I would argue with you though, Caleb, because until the 90s, the technology for outreach was pretty much the same. We could mass produce things in terms of having a copy machine and being able to make multiples of something by using like a Word document. So we could use some computation. But when it came to starting your business, the internet wasn't really a thing until the mid 90s. And it certainly wasn't in all households, until the late 90s or even later in some cases. So I would argue that the process has shifted in the last 20 years more than it had in the last 70 years.
I agree. Agree 100%. I would argue it shifted in the last 5 or 6.
Oh, and
so
it keeps
easier, right?
Right. The shifts are astronomical now.
Yeah.
Year over year, it decreases the barriers to starting a business by 20% every year, I would say. And there's just so much availability that you have to willingly not want to do something.
Say that
in
again.
order to fail.
Say that again. Say that again. I love it. Say that again, because that's a Caleb statement. Say that again.
Well, you have to really not want something if you're willing to not do anything.
Willingly not do anything.
Yep.
You guys, some of you are in this category. I talk about listigs. Okay, some of you are in this category. Willingly not do it. You could start a business. You don't, because whatever bullshit excuse you have. I'm too busy, or
most of it's just fear, and that's okay. We're here to help you get over that nonsense, because Caleb's right. I've seen complete morons running businesses successfully. They have no idea how to run the back end, no idea what they're doing. They're a good practitioner, and they've been able to bumble along and still make 5 or 6 figures a year.
Yeah, right. There's not, and so when I talk about 5 flags getting harder every year, and it does. I'm in Mexico right now. It's getting harder every year, so you can't wait. Starting a business is almost the opposite. It almost gets easier every year because it's so much easier now. Another thing too is the pandemic. The pandemic has introduced a lot of new tools that are actually easier to use. That are look at Zoom. Zoom came out of the pandemic, and I mean, Billie, how much of our business when we work with our clients and our customers is over Zoom? like 100%.
90%. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, and that was before that was Skype, and Skype was fine, but exactly. And it's not just Zoom. We can list 27 different things.
Yeah.
We just did, well, that doesn't really apply. I have all these ideas in my head. I have all these ideas in my head of what I want to talk about. This is what happens when I do a webinar with no slides, because it's like, I have all these ideas in my head I want to talk about, especially when there's another person in the webinar like, let's talk about this. Why don't you keep going unless you're done with that piece, because I don't want to go ramble over you. What else about the differences between, are there any negative differences? Are there any new challenges in your view of starting a business now versus 5, 10, 15 years?
Yeah, everyone knows how to leverage AI, even though it's new. People are leveraging it right and left. So there are a lot of businesses that seemed feasible a few years ago that are no longer feasible. For example, if you want to start a copywriting business, now's not the time. You missed the boat on that. So, some of those things are moving really quickly, and there are jobs that are going to be lost to automation. So you need to stay ahead of those curves and make sure that what you're offering is going to withstand those rapid changes. Because what we've seen in ChatGPT and Jasper and some of these other tools is only the tip of the iceberg, guys. It's going to keep coming. So the difficulty is trying to visualize ahead of that and understand which careers, which industries are most going to be stricken by the advent of new technology, and steer clear. Easier said than done, because it does require being something of a visionary and following different visionaries to try to calibrate where you think those changes will happen.
So this goes back to what works now will probably not work in 5 years. Mm-hmm. What might make you money in 5 years maybe won't make you money now. So I'll just go through really quick my business evolution really quick on the number of times I had to pivot what I was doing in order to maintain and grow my income over time. By the way, this especially applies to those of you, this is a good segue, those of you who already have a business, you've already started a business, or you actively have a business now. So my first business was selling computer consulting. That was 1 billion years ago. Then I morphed that into time management productivity consulting. I did a pivot. Then I pivoted again, and I morphed that into management consulting, strategic planning, things like that, and still some productivity. Then on the internet, in addition to that, my first internet business was selling dating advice for men. And we still talk about that over in Alpha 2.0. But that was my first internet business. Now, is that my primary source of income now on the internet? No. What did I pivot to? Not even pivoted within that business. First, it was online dating. This is back in 2008, because that was a big new niche trend. It was a niche. Online dating was a niche in 2007. Is it a niche now? No, everyone does this. Now it's not a niche. So I had to pivot out that and pivot more toward men dating multiple women all at the same time, not lying or cheating or drama. That was the pivot I had to make. Then I made a pivot to sovereign CEO when I realized the Western world was collapsing and I was moving out of the country. And most of you in my audience were talking about how you wanted to internationalize your lives and things like that. I also, actually before that, we pivoted to location independent business, Alpha Male 2.0. That was another part of the brand where we expanded that brand into business topics and financial topics. And then the sovereign CEO business has pivoted several times just in the last few years. The pandemic, changes in the laws. So every few years, and Billie certainly has done this also, I've had to pivot what I'm doing in order to maintain my income, and B, maintain my income growth. There is no way, I promise you, that I will be talking about literally the exact same things 7 years from now. A lot of things I will be, but a lot of things I won't, or a lot of things will have changed. And so this AI thing and everything else is just the latest example of how you need to pivot and to change in order to maintain your income as a business owner. Even when you're an employee to a degree, you don't have the same job you had 20 years ago or 15 years ago or even 5 years ago, most likely, right? Right. So you have to constantly change. And if you're one of these people that just stamps your foot and says, I don't want to have to change, I just want to build a business and ride that out for the rest of my life, that doesn't really exist. You can't do a degree if you don't want to scale or build. But you have to recognize that you have to constantly, 5 years from now, no matter what you're doing in your business, new business or existing business, you're going to be doing something very different. And
the way I would equate that, Caleb, is to fashion. Think about what you wore. Okay, now this isn't necessarily true for guys. Caleb, I know you're a little bit in this camp. What you wore in high school is likely not what you're wearing today because fashion changes. What you see, if you were a clothing manufacturer, you have lines that come out 2, 3, 4 times a year because that's how quickly fashion cycles.
Right.
Business
Right.
is no different. On the greater scheme of things, things are always cycling, always changing, and always moving. There is nothing, there is no static business that is alive. Being static kills your business. But to one of Caleb's other points, pivoting helps you grow and change and adapt, which is very different to veering. So a pivot is a planned and well thought out move. If you're on the basketball court and you're pivoting, you have one foot planted, right? And you know which direction you want your body to travel. It is a very well planned thing. If somebody is coming at you like a freight train and you need to get out of their way, that is a veer. You're quickly changing your direction of travel, which upsets things. Think about being in a car, right? If you make a pivot, which is a slow turn, you and your passengers are comfortable in your vehicle. If you make a quick, sharp, sudden turn, everyone is kind of thrown out of whack, right?
What's a business example of a veer?
A veer is, we're not going to do this anymore. We have this successful thing and we're just going to stop and go this completely different direction. Or I don't believe that, we want to change the branding and we're just going to change every single thing in the company to go along with it. That's a veer. Following trends, following fads is a veer. It is something that is unplanned that you're doing as a reactionary measure rather than something that you plan and you are in control of moving forward. So if I plan to make small adaptations to my business, I'm in control of that. And it's easy to do and to break up into granular pieces, individual tasks, and to make that change pretty simple, whether your staff is just yourself or 300 people, because you're preparing and providing information. When you're making a veer, it is something that you throw people for a loop. No, people are not prepared. And that's the biggest difference to me between success and failure. If you are veering and your staff, your team, your processes are not with you, you collapse. Everything's thrown out of balance, and it takes a lot of effort to bring things back into balance and recreate what you've already successfully created. So we prefer the plan of a pivot, always looking for those opportunities to pivot rather than waiting until we have to do something and we veer.
And over the course of my business career, I have done both those things. I have pivoted, which is good. Yeah. And sometimes on a smaller scale, correct me if you think I'm wrong about this. I don't think I've ever veered on a major scale. I veered on a small scale. I've definitely veered a few times on a small scale. I don't think, unless you disagree, have I ever veered on a major scale in the time you've known me? Have I? No? Okay.
No, you veer on the minor scale, but when that happens, what does that feel like? What is the pushback that you get internally from the teams?
Oh, I get a lot. The whole team goes, "Oh my God, what is Caleb doing now?" And this is part of the dynamic you have as a business owner with your team. And I don't mean employees, because we teach no employee models and contractors or whatever, or VAs or whatever. But some of this dynamic is normal, where you have the visionary, the owner, and he's like, "All right, let's do this," he or she. "Let's do this. Now we're going to do this." And the team goes, "Wait, what? Wait a minute. Why did you do that? Could you have let us know? Could you?" Yeah. So that has certainly happened several times. And it's happening, I think, less often now because my communication with the team is a little better. That's one of the things I'm trying to evolve and grow as a business leader to get feedback and to keep the communication up. But we could do a whole thing on that, couldn't we? We could do a whole podcast on communicating with your team. Yeah, that's something I've had to learn to do in the last, especially last 2 or 3 years since we scaled.
Yeah.
So right. Yeah, definitely.
It's really come home for you in the last couple of years.
Oh, totally, dude. Especially like maybe early this year, because I remember early this year I did a few little veers, and like you included, you're like, "Oh my God, what is Caleb doing now?" And it makes me laugh. But I also go, "This is not good fun."
It was more of a, oh, Jesus Christ, you're throwing everything out of whack, and we could have handled this so much better with
Yes.
a little bit of information.
Right.
That's
Right.
all it would have
Right.
taken. And so I think that's the commonality in business today, business yesterday. Business yesterday, you could get away with being dictatorial in your business, whether they were freelancers, vendors, staff. We had this idea that the customers are always right.
Yeah.
And we treated ourselves in our business as the customer. We were always right. Our staff were beneath us. That ethos has largely changed, especially if you want your business to grow. The most important thing that we can have is buy-in from our teams and our staff. People used to be much more dispensable, and frankly, they're not, especially the more technology-driven we become. People aren't as easily replaceable in some ways as they used to be. And certainly most people won't put up with a dictatorial attitude. You might have staff for a few years if you're a jerk, but your turnover rates are going to be high, which is the biggest cost in most businesses. Additionally, you're going to have to keep offering larger and larger sums of money for people to put up with you.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you could get away with a whole lot more. But we're not tied to our local economies anymore.
Mm-hmm. You know what you just made me think of? We've had some problems in one of our companies lately, and I had to tell the team, hey, here are these problems we're having. If you have any issues with this, let me know. And it was like a week or two ago, and it was 100 from our entire team at 20 some odd people. It was all positive. It's like, hey, no problem. We're here. We believe in what this business is doing. Let's go. Let's do it. I didn't get one single complaint, even when I directly asked for them. I literally asked for complaints. Mm-hmm. I said, hey, and it was 100% positive. And if I was not typical, I don't think dictatorial assholes are the typical business owners, but if I was certainly like that, that wouldn't have been the response. Because I remember my dad, when he had his own business, he was a dictatorial asshole. And he had constant turnover. He had constant drama in his business. When I was in high school, briefly, I worked for my dad's company, helping with the computers. And you should have heard the other employees come to me talk about my dad. Like, you're a great guy, Caleb, but my God, your dad, oh my. And they would just go on and on. And I'm thinking to myself, even as a teenager, I'm thinking to myself, my dad's losing money. Mm-hmm. People don't think of him this way. Now, today, my dad's a sweetheart. You see, I have a video with him on my other channel, but because he's in his 80s. But back then, and so I remember thinking about that. Plus, I've done a lot of consulting, a lot of companies. Billie and I both have. And I've seen companies run by people who engage their team. And I've seen companies run by a-holes. And I've seen companies run by not a-holes, but people who just kind of run around and do whatever they want, which is a little bit of what I was doing earlier. Did run around and do whatever they want. And it's like, Billie, you can probably relate to this because I've seen this several times. You see the business owner moving through the forest and creating this pile of turds behind him or her. Sometimes it's a her. And this team is constantly behind him cleaning up their messes. And that's just how the business moves. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm thinking, my God, you're working very hard and you're losing money. You could work so much less and make if you were just a little more organized, a little more engaged, and a little more proactive. Shit. So, yes, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's the major change, though, is that we understand, and what you and I preach is that engagement with our teams, internal vendors, external vendors, staff, employees, whatever you happen to have. The engagement with those people is paramount to your business success. They have to be invested in one way or another. And in most cases, all we give people is money. So what Caleb and I give them is an ear. We validate their ideas.
You taught me that because before I was like, I pay you, shut up. I didn't say shut up, but I'm like, I pay you. There you go. That should be enough. I don't have to listen to you or engage you or like talk to you, especially 5 or 6 years ago. So you taught me that. But go ahead. I just want to make it clear. Billie taught me this because I didn't have this skill set 6 years ago. I didn't. But go ahead. Sorry.
But our minimal time investment to listen to people, to ask questions, to make sure that we're moving them in pivot as our companies grow and change, as well as ourselves. The biggest gift that we can give our staff, teams, vendors, whatever, is the autonomy to modify what they are doing, but still stay within the fold of our business. That's how you, in my opinion, that's how you get a lifelong buy-in to the ethos and the vibe of your company, because people are being heard, they're allowed to have a voice, and they're allowed to change processes and come directly to the owners or the leadership team. We don't do these barriers of hierarchy. Of course, they exist to a small degree, and they have to, because we don't want to manage 20 odd people. But at the end of the day, any of those 20 odd people can say, "Oh my God, Caleb, I had this awesome idea." And they will be able to interface with Caleb immediately using our project management tools. So it doesn't might take much time or much investment on our part, but we establish a mechanism where people know they can be heard and have the opportunity to do so directly. Huge,
And
huge change.
yeah, and I've made real money from ideas from my team, Billie included. I've made real money. I've had there's all kinds of things we're now doing as a regular part of our company. I mean, I think, Billie, I think you're responsible for all of our Get Residency services. I think that was originally your idea, I think. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
I don't think it's right. Yeah, I mean, we do big money on those services. We do pretty well on those. So in terms of gross and net, and we enjoy doing those. I mean, that's just one example. I mean, I've gotten ideas from all kinds of people. That's the other thing, is that if you look at the people you work with as a resource instead of a labor expense, which is what I used to do, especially prior to 6 years ago, I'm like, okay, this is an expense on my P&L, and I got to pay these people. And it wasn't, I'm exaggerating. I didn't have a negative attitude about it, but I saw them as an expense, as a necessary evil, because it requires management. And today, my attitude is completely different. My attitude is, these are all individual profit centers who can bring me money by giving me ideas. And then they benefit because raises and bonuses and all that stuff. So they benefit either short or long term. I benefit. It's a whole different mindset than just, I need help, so I got to pay people. Now, maybe when you're first getting started and you hire that first person, like an admin person or a tech person, maybe or maybe not that person falls in that category. But over time, they will. And that's the attitude you want to have from the very beginning. And again, Billie taught me this because I wasn't good at this at all. Shit. Billie's like, child. Yeah, well, we've grown into. Yeah, see, I've mentioned this in prior, like in podcasts, where I'm trying to scale up and simplify and scale at the same time. When you're constantly scaling, every 6 months you run into a new problem, a new roadblock, and you have to learn a whole new set of skills. That's the irritating part about scaling. If you just want to make $85,000 a year location dependent, like we talked about here at Sovereign CEO, maybe you don't have to worry about that. But if you want to go past that, well past that, that's just what you run into every 6 months. And maybe I'm exaggerating. Maybe it's every year, but it's regular. On a regular basis, I'm like, this is going great. And I go, oh no. And I got to literally learn something new, or hire someone completely new, or read 2 new books. I just read 2 books because I had to, and not because I wanted to, but because I had to scale. And it's just part of the program. And you just, and that's one of the aspects of that is how to interface. I'm using interface. That's a term from the 80s. Interface with your team in a way that makes sense, in a way that complements the scaling and complements the income, instead of just, this is what I need to have happen. I don't know if that makes sense. Am I making sense? Yeah.
I think I know where you're headed with that. The reality is, you need a team who's willing to pivot with you. The way that you cultivate a team who's willing to pivot, instead of that attitude like, it's not my job, because frankly, their jobs are always going to be evolving as the company evolves.
Especially when it's a small business.
So what I look for out of the gate is a thought partner. Even with my first hire, if it's a VA, if it's a tech person, I don't care. I'm looking for someone to be a thought partner that I can exchange ideas with. So I don't view, even my VA is not my assistant. I call him that sometimes, but more typically I call him my right-hand man from Pakistan, because that's more the reality.
He is your thought partner. He really is.
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's an accurate description. That's not BS. That's an accurate description of who that person is, and my people too. I mean, you're beyond a thought partner. You're not just someone in my company. And
Exactly.
Jeff, Cliff, Matthew, I mean, all these guys, all these people are absolutely in those categories. Not just, matter of fact, I mean, your team. So Billie has her own company. I'll tell you how many companies Billie has in a minute. I have 2.5. Billie has a little more. I'll brag about her in a second. But I would imagine it's the same to yours. I don't think there's anyone on our team at Sovereign CEO that I wouldn't consider a thought partner. I'm thinking of literally everybody. I'm going down the list in my head They're all thought partners. Now, maybe they're thought partners at different levels and different areas, but there isn't a single person, even Pink Firefly, who works in our business.
Mhm.
All these people are thought partners for me and for us and for Billie, for the team. It's not just some are employees, quote unquote, and some are thought partners. They're all, literally, I mean this now. I'm racking my brain trying to think of someone in our team who I would
We
just
don't
consider
have
kind of a staffer, and I
We
can't think
don't
of
have
one.
them.
Yeah.
They're dead
I never
weight,
thought
so
I'd
we
have
don't
that.
hire them.
Yeah, I never thought I'd have that. 5 years ago, I never thought I'd have that. A group of this large, of people this good, I never thought I'd have that.
And our
And
turnover
Billie
rate
is one of the biggest
is
reasons I have that.
our
You are.
turnover rate is like one person every 4 years, maybe?
Yes.
It's very
We just
low.
had someone leave, and that was the first person in 4 years, right?
Yeah.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
That's sick for a little company like ours, little comparatively. Small business means you're under like 500 employees, whatever the fuck the number is. But yeah, that's insanity. There's no way in hell I ever thought, I mean this. And I've kind of mentioned this to the team too. I should probably mention it more often, shouldn't I? That I never thought we would have a team I never in my wildest dreams, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, that I thought we would have a team like this or a business like this. I figured I'd be making good. I always figure that, but not under these conditions where I don't have to worry. The biggest source of worry in my business always is me. It's never,
Yes.
oh, what about this person? What about that? It's always me. And I think that's what you want it to be. If you're going to worry about anything, you should worry about you. If you're worried about people on your team, A, you may have hired the wrong people, or B, or both, you have the wrong mindset about this. My concern is me. I don't know how you feel about this, your companies, but I don't worry about other people, rarely. I mean, there's been an isolated example. You see, there you go.
I don't need to. We have systems in place, and that's the other thing that's really changed, is there are all these electronic systems available for project management, for customer retention or relationship management. You can get tools for everything, so use them. They serve you so well because honestly, you can cultivate that ethos in any business pretty readily, and that spreads to your audience as well. Your audience can tell. Whether that's clients, coaching, it doesn't matter what you're selling, widgets. Your audience can feel when your team is truly invested and when they actually care. And the problem that we have in Caleb's business, and he's said this more than once, is, oh my God, you guys, you care more than I do. Let it go a little bit. And I think that's a great place to be.
Yes, especially lately, but not even lately. Yes, I have had to tell people in my own team to be less outcome dependent about my business. I remember, I don't want to give the specific example, but someone on our team who we both really like and is really important was worried about something. You were telling me he was worried about something. And I'm like, why is he worried about that? That's my problem. That's not his problem. That's a corporate thing. He doesn't worry about this. He's fine. Because we have people who are early invested. And again, I didn't think in a million years. Back when I had a job, I was never invested in any of my employees. When I worked for Nike, which was a fine company, I guess, for a big company. When I worked for First Interstate Bank, when I worked for Central Point Software back in my 20s, I was never invested in the company. I didn't give a fuck what they were doing. I just wanted my paycheck and get the hell out of there. And we have everyone on our team who is completely invested in what we're doing. I know you have the same thing with your guys. I know for a fact because I've talked to them. So we both have this dynamic where it's less than just that our team has the momentum, and in some cases they have better momentum than we do.
Yes.
Isn't that kind of funny?
That's the best thing is that we've leveraged that superpower of people across the globe so that not only do we have a thought partner in our VA, but our VA is the person who pushes us to get our acts in gear, who improves us. And they don't have fear in doing so. And that's the vibe throughout the whole company. So again, probably one of the biggest changes in the last 5 years is really leaning into that, understanding that your staff is not just a mindless group of drones. And we have the ability to interact with people around the globe in a way that even 5 years ago was much more challenging. You could hire people abroad, of course. And there were tools like Upwork and the different platforms, but they have become so much stronger. And the workforce, especially post-pandemic, people don't want to be stuck back in a physical office. So the available workforce has grown exponentially in ways that, retail centers are begging and crying for people.
So funny.
But they're all online saying, you know what, I can have a better life.
Right.
So that candidate pool is wider than it's ever been. And the cost of that labor is decreasing because it's a competitive marketplace. So again, that competition in the marketplace isn't something we've really seen before in the same volume.
Let's answer a few questions, and then we'll get to some other things. We don't have as many people on here as we normally do live because those of you who are joining late, we were 15 minutes late because we're both tech idiots. We were trying new technology things. So anyway, hang on. If you have any quick questions, throw them in the chat. We'll move on. We'll answer more questions later too. We'll answer questions throughout. I'm going to try to do this without putting on my reading glasses. See if I can pull this off. See if I can do it. Gen X Jeff. I'm Gen X too.
I'll read it. The business has started. It's growing. It's growing it that I'm stuck at connecting my services with clients who need them. Marketing, I guess.
So you want to answer that?
How do you connect with clients? What is your marketing plan? The thing that I see most is people wanting to spend money on marketing without having done any organic outreach. So my first question to you is, have you reached out to everyone in your social and business circles to let them know what you're doing? You never know what will come of that. You may say like Aunt Susie doesn't care about that, but Aunt Susie's neighbor might have a need for the service or the product that you're providing. So make sure your social circle, family, friends, business colleagues have some idea what you're doing. Secondly, what are the organic ways that you can display your product or service? Can you be a guest on podcasts which provide social validation, right? You wouldn't be asked onto a podcast unless you know something. You are perceived as an expert by the podcast host. Thereby, you are perceived as an expert by the audience. So are you leveraging opportunities like that? Are you creating opportunities perhaps to speak? Whether that's at, the local Elks Lodge, Chamber of Commerce meetings, are you looking for opportunities to get the word out there that don't cost you money? That is, to me, the first line of attack, whether your business exists or whether you're starting up.
We have modified our business builder program based on what Billie just said, because she was in there and she's like, we don't talk about warm network stuff enough in this program. And Jeff and I were in the meeting like, look at each other like, yeah, that's right, we don't. So we've actually modified our curriculum to because that's how I got started. I've talked this way. I made 120 phone calls to people I knew. I just made a big list and I got clients. I didn't have to pay a single penny for a single ad. I didn't have to do any organic blogging around that bullshit. It's not bullshit, but organic takes time. Your warm network, you start there. And so we weren't talking enough about that. And Billie set us straight. And now the curriculum we've just started, and we have another one starting next week. I'll talk about that tomorrow. That we already know we're going to get faster results for people in that program in terms of getting their first few clients because of that. That's another influence Billie has. We got to go for the next one. We got to speed these up a little bit. If I can only sell one product in my business, and yes, only one, should I switch my business? I don't really understand the question. Do you understand the question? I don't understand your question.
The way I would answer that question is, are you selling that product? If you are, awesome, keep it running. There's nothing stopping you from adding a second product line or creating a second business if that makes sense for you. So it's okay to have a product that's going to have a lifespan, as long as you have something else to take its place. And that's where we talk about pivoting. So if eventually you need to pivot from one product to the next, start creating that second product now.
So my answer is slightly different. I think when you're starting a new business, your goal is to get to a wide product line as quickly as you can, but one product at a time. I guess it's similar to what Billie said. I don't think having one thing, you sell just one thing. I think that applies to people like Billie and I, people at the high 6-figure, 7-figure level. Those guys need to pivot to one thing. Those guys need to narrow. But when you're starting from zero, you want a wide product line. I can tell you for a fact, I would not make the money I would have made back then or now if I had started any business and just focused on one thing for a long time. One thing, scale it up, add the next thing, scale that up, add the next thing. Scale. So you have a nice, I mean, how many courses do I have in both my brands? I got a billion, something like 12 different courses, 15 mini courses. We have 5 or 6 coaching programs. We've got 4 or 5 different types of events. And that's all income for me. Now, once you get to Alex Hormozi levels, then maybe, yeah, you back off and do one thing like he talks about. And in fact, I've done a video about that. But yeah. 1 or 2 more quick questions. We'll move on. But we'll get the rest of the questions. We'll get to all of them. What data do you guys have access to in your company that helps you scale? Really quick, I'll answer this is, and then Billy, please give your thoughts because you get different opinions from me and Billy. Primarily through my own audience. So we use Kartra, but there's lots of systems like this. And so we get a lot of analytical data from things that people like, things that people don't, things that respond to the audience well, things that don't. Plus, I also do joint ventures with other people, and I use those to test new ideas to cold audiences. Plus, we have all the usual advertising. We run YouTube ads, we run YouTube ads, Instagram shout outs, and we pay attention, or at least I have people who do, I don't, but I do a little bit. We pay attention to those analytics and we look at what's working and what isn't and what doesn't. And we pivot, that's the word of the day. We pivot based on the information we get back instead of saying, well, I really want to sell this. People should like this, which is what most people do. Do you have an opinion on that?
I would add to that the other data that we have access to that I think is paramount to scaling is we use project management for everything. So basically, if it's not in our project management tool, it didn't happen. So I can literally look through and see where any given individual is, what their workload is like, what they've completed. I can see everything that has been worked on the back end, which is helpful for 2 reasons. Number one, I can see who's performing well, who's not. I can understand scheduling so that the project managers can allocate things in the right way. But additionally, it gives me the chance and the staff the chance to reflect on how far we've come from where we had been. And that's something that we require that they do annually, is at least just scroll through their contributions in project management to have some understanding of what they've contributed.
Correct. Hi, guys. How do you say your name? Hakiran Pabla. I like to pronounce foreign names and say them incorrectly. That's my hobby. Structural engineer for the UK. I want to sell online training courses to help engineers to get professionally qualified. Is this a good enough niche? In my view, no. Online engineers is not a niche. That is a huge, broad demographic of humans. So you need to narrow that. Plus, get professionally qualified. That doesn't mean anything. You have to more narrowly focus. Now, that being said, we worked with a guy in Canada who did a similar niche in Canada where it was a very specific set of certifications, and he made and makes good money. Last time I was talking, he was making $7,000 to $8,000 a month, and he was only working about 20 hours a week. But it was very specific certifications he was helping people pass. So you just narrow down what type of engineer, what type of certifications. That's what I do. Yep.
You just need to burrow a couple layers more deeply.
Right. That's a good start. You got a good start. You're not there, but you're almost there. Do you think tax laws will change to address the location ambiguity of the 100% internet-based businesses? In the Western world, yes. There's a reason I'm working on renouncing my American citizenship. Why do you think I'm doing that? Because over the next several years, now I say several years, could be a decade or 2. We don't know. You can't predict the future. I've talked about this. But yes, and you've heard rumblings about this, especially of European countries, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, the collapsing trifecta. So United States, Canada, Europe, and especially Western Europe. You could throw in Australia, New Zealand there. Yes. And the more people do this, the more people who do 5 flags, the more they will crack down on these things. That's why, not the topic for today, but that's why 5 flags is such an important component to your long-term happiness. You got to get started on this now. Don't wait till it gets really, 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 really bad and then say, oh, now what do I do? You get started now before it gets really bad, and you could make the argument, and I have, it's already bad now. It's going to get worse and worse. So the answer is a big yes. Don't wait. And even if I'm going to say this again, guys, even if you realize and make him president for life, it will still get worse in the United States, Canada, Europe, etc. So yes.
Yeah. And I would add that the other smart move, if internationalizing your life isn't feasible, at least move your residency to a state like South Dakota, where the employment tax is 0. There are plenty. We can help you do that. There are plenty of methods to change your residency to one of those states that's advantageous. That will also change over time, but take advantage where you can, and be smart about it.
we should start a service. We should do a service. Although that's
It's
not
already
super
in
good.
no, that's already in the works.
Okay. Yeah, I think we
We're
talked
going to actually help people get their residency in 2 days.
in low cost
So just by
states. Yeah.
spending one night there, and we can also do their vehicle registration. So that's something that we're going to roll out really soon. And it's something that I've done and a bunch of my clients have done, which is why I put something together, because it's foolish not to.
Yeah. I remember years ago when I moved to the Washington State, Portland, Oregon, and Vancouver, Washington are basically touching. So I literally moved about 20 minutes north. This is before Five Flags, my Five Flags life. And my overall tax burden went down. What was the number? 13%, 14. I was making 6 figures. So that's a lot of money. So just by making a move 20 minutes north. And it's the same environment. It's the same culture, same location. It's just you're across a river from Columbia River, from Oregon to Washington State, because Washington State has no income tax, state income tax. Oregon is one of the highest state income taxes in the United States. So many of you are living, you guys in California, many of you are living in states that are murdering you. You guys in New York and New Jersey, and what are you doing? So yes, move to.
But you don't need to move.
Set up residency. You don't need to move, right? Set up residency in North Dakota, right? Right, Billy?
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Excuse me.
So.
Oh, it's South Dakota. Right. You're right. All right. Let's do one more quick question. We'll move on. We'll answer that questions. Do you still do consulting? Could you put me your website? Hey, that's a really good segue. So I do. Let me talk about Billie, because Billie does consulting and coaching both. And you've just heard about the different. Plus, if you've heard the Unchained Business Podcast / Business Badassery Podcast, where you change the name, you've heard how smart she is and how skilled she is. Let me pump Billie up for a second. Hang on a second. I'm going to brag about you for a second. This is one of my favorite things to do. I'm in 2.5 companies. Billie, how many companies do you own equity in or involved in right now?
11.
Okay. So when I say I have 3 companies, we go, wow, 3 companies. Even if you say 2 companies, go, wow, really, 2 companies? Billie's in 11. How many boards of directors are you on?
3.
5? 3?
No,
Okay. 3. Okay. So Billie has equity.
Back a little.
What?
I had to scale that back a little to take on the Brazilian Rainforest Trust, which is a pet project.
See this? Billie is you think I'm a maniac. Billie is more of a maniac than this. Billie is location dependent. She is completely self-made. She makes, I want to put words in your mouth. I'll just brag. She makes high 6 figures, perhaps more. She is ridiculously successful. And she also works with companies, which I don't do very much of anymore because I don't want to. And frankly, my international schedule doesn't really allow me to do a lot of this stuff. So Billie can work with you either through coaching or through consulting in your company. Billie has already consulted. How many companies have you consulted with? Do you know the number? I mean, through your whole career. No? Do you know what the number
I have
is?
no idea. Hundreds?
Yeah, I have to go back and guess online. I don't know what it is. I should probably figure it out. But I don't really do consulting.
I started to make a list and felt overwhelmed by how many things around the list and how much I kept forgetting.
Right. Plus,
several hundred.
What's that? Over 100?
Several hundred in different.
Several hundred, yeah.
Everything from manufacturing to food to distribution and warehousing to coaching consulting. So I like to learn about lots of different industries and niches. Excuse me. Whereas Caleb, has been a lot more niched than I have. I follow the dopamine. So what interests me is largely influences what I follow.
That's so funny. Billie has made me a lot of money. Billie has made many of our clients in several of our coaching programs a lot of money, and I mean that literally. If I was more prepared, I would give you specific numbers. The problem is guys are shy sometimes to let us publish their numbers, but Billie has made me a lot of money. Billie has made a lot of people in our audience a lot of money. Billie has turned around, completely turned around several people in our coaching programs. I know this is true, like their entire lives. Billie, and then through people that she works with through her network. Also, here's the other thing. Billie has in my opinion, Billie has a much better network than I do. I'm not really Mr. Networking because of my personality. I'm Mr. Lone Wolf, and actually I paid the price for some of that, especially historically. But Billie doesn't have that problem. Like in Paraguay, I've been to Paraguay a lot over the last several years. Billie's been there a few times, far less than me, but she now knows more people, more business owners, more political contacts, government. I mean, everybody. She has this gigantic network in Paraguay just by being there a few times that I haven't. I don't even have, spending there as my second home since like 2018. So Billie also has a very strong network she can tie you into that in ways that I can't, because I have a network, but not like Billie. So I have to take this over before I, keep pumping you up. How can you help our clients, both people who want coaching, or if you already have your own company and you need a consultant to help you scale or optimize your operations, or a few other things I want to put words in your mouth? Go ahead. I could talk for the 10th hour about Billie, but I'll let her.
Yeah, I feel kind of on the spot. I didn't know this was going to be part of it necessarily. So I would say that if I own a company called Boss Cooperative, that's my major company. We have a website because we finally just put one up. All of my clients over the years have come to me by word of mouth. So I've never had to market or advertise or do anything. I don't even know how Caleb found me, honestly. Just a fluke.
So, it was a total fluke because you weren't even on that system anymore. Like,
no.
Total fluke. So wait, really quick, I'm going to pause really quick. High six-figure income, self-made, no marketing. That's Billie. Now, I make money, but I market, as you guys know, I market a lot. Billie has not marketed hardly at all. And she got to those levels anyway. What does that say? Maybe go ahead.
It's not that I haven't marketed much at all. It's that I literally have not done a single thing to market myself.
Yeah, right.
Nothing.
I know, it blows me away. I can't.
I'm making a website now is because I have a coaching, stable of coaches that work with me that I'm really lucky to have. And I need to make that list available to the people in your coaching programs. For those of you who don't know, I'm part of the 500K Accelerator program that Caleb offers. And I'm the primary coach there. I'm also the primary coach in the 90-day business builder program. So all of the coaches that are part of that have been approved by Caleb, but they're on my team. So the other thing that I have is that I have a really cool team in Pakistan. My virtual assistant isn't my assistant. He owns his own business too. He's a self-made young man who owns a virtual assistant company. So when I need a developer or someone to do SEO, I have a community of people that I can go to in Pakistan, as well as in the Philippines and in the US, so that we can draw labor from anywhere and make connections for you. But what I actually do that's different than Caleb is I like doing the implementation. I like jumping into the back end of 1 or 2 businesses every year, figuring out what's going on, understanding the key players, and then streamlining the entire business. Because I can be the bad guy, and I'm okay with that in a way that owners can't. I'm detached. I don't care if people like me. Of course, I do care that they're happy, but they don't need to like me. So I often just dive in with the owners and help them, add new processes, create standard operating procedures, and make their business, create the preparedness that is necessary to scale your business. And scaling is that constant process of growth and then adapting with your organizational backend. So it's a constant cycle of one of those two things. You're always in movement.
How can people find you? Should we give them their website or your email? By the way, really quick, I get no money recommending Billie. This is just what I believe in. She doesn't pay me a kickback or this stuff. Just, I'm doing this because I know for a fact she can help you. And how picky, those who know me and know my content, how picky I am when I refer people. I'm kind of rigorous about this because I don't even like doing it because it's just how I am. So if I'm recommending someone, they're good. We've already talked about this, but I'm helping you market, Billie. How do they get in contact with you? Email or a website?
They are going to go to the website, which is bosscooperative.com.
Can you type that into the chat? Do you have that chat feature?
Do that right now.
Bosscooperative.com. Is that it? I thought it was something else.
That's it.
Okay, cool. And should we give them an email?
Yes, I'll put that in the chat. It's
and I'll also if you're watching recording of this, I'll update the links down there in the recording too. I'll do that as well. And that's for both coaching and consulting. What is coaching is one-on-one. Consulting is she works in your company, which is what both that's what Billie both of us have done over the past 25 years. That's been the bulk of our income. At least it's been the bulk of mine. So maybe not Billie's. Billie does so many other things. Maybe not.
I know, I do a lot of things. This is the crux of it,
Yeah.
honestly.
Holy shit.
Organizing.
Yeah, no kidding. What else am I say about that? I have a hard out in 20 minutes. Let's wrap that part up. Let's talk about our event, and then let's answer some more questions. Cool? That work?
Super. I have a hard out in a few minutes too, so that's perfect.
Oh, perfect. All right, great.
In terms of that, if you want coaching or consulting, or if you need someone to take a deeper dive in your business with you, I have openings for 1, possibly 2 clients right now. And I haven't been taking on new clients in the last year and a half because of other fun projects. But I am kind of toning down. I'm toning down with the addition of new projects to my lifestyle. I'm working on this Brazilian rainforest trust. You can see the pictures of the property right here. So I can take on 1 more client. And if you think that you would be served well by your business auntie Billie, give me a shout either via email or at the website. The other thing I want to add is that if you need help finding a key member of staff for your business, or if you maybe are looking for your first VA, you don't know how to hire a thought partner, or the idea of hiring someone is overwhelming, reach out to me. I either have people in my network or can help you through those hurdles of finding the right people. So please, Auntie Billie's great at putting the right butts in the right seats. So if that's something you struggle with, please reach out. We'd be glad to help. And with that, Caleb, let's talk events.
Yeah. So I'll just I'll introduce this, and Billie will give you the specifics, because I just was on the website this morning, and I'm going through. God, there's so much stuff here. So it's hard for me to summarize. I'll let Billie do that. So Billie is putting on an event called Unrhythm in September. Yes. September 9? What's the date? What's the start date?
9 and 10. It's the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Okay. And what you do is you fly into Atlanta, Georgia, but it's not in Atlanta, Georgia. It is a business summer camp. So you do all the summer camp stuff in addition to having business breakout sessions. I will be one of the people there. There's a bunch of other people. There might be some secret guests who we won't announce who may be showing up, hint, hint, people you know the names of. But anyway, and that will be, the way it works is, Billie, correct me if I'm wrong, you fly in to Atlanta, and the cost of the event covers the cost of lodging and food. So you literally live there for 2 days over a weekend. And we actually take a bus, just like summer camp, out to the forest. Do we bus you from the airport, or do we pick up the hotel? How does that work?
No, we're going to bus them from the airport. We may add some central hotel locations once we understand,
cool.
A little bit better the numbers as we get closer. But the goal is that we pick you up from somewhere convenient. We drive you out to the camp. It's about an hour and a half outside of Atlanta. It is a children's summer camp, but also a conference and wedding facility. So they have, showers, toilets, indoor plumbing, electricity.
It's not like you're living in the dirt, right? So those are like, I don't want to be outside. Those you wimps. Yeah.
So, but those of you, so we're staying in cabins. There'll be 8 people in a cabin. They're huge though. So we've cut the occupancy down to give everyone space. And essentially we put together my dream weekend, because I'm an outdoor girl and I don't learn very well in a traditional classroom. I get really bored at conferences. I just have a very hard time learning that way. So the goal was to bring together coaches that would tie in physical activity and fun to the learning exercises, so we can get the most out of it possible. And we have some very cool coaches as well. That was weird. You're breaking up on my end, Caleb. Maybe it's me. Okay, guys, I don't know if you can hear me or if it's me that's frozen. So it looks like maybe Caleb was. There he is.
That's me. I'm in Mexico, so if I freeze, just keep going. Don't worry about me. I'll come back.
Okay. I wasn't sure what was going on. At any rate, we have some great coaches coming. One of them is Justin Torres, who's a parkour instructor and a champion parkour athlete who's going to help us understand how to fail, because that's one of the most important lessons you can learn in taking any risk is how to fail and how to be okay with that and how to rebound. So I'm excited that Justin will be coming to teach that lesson. Um, we also have Christy Lake, who's going to be helping us understand mindfulness practices specifically for entrepreneurs. So, helping us get into the headspace where we can make the most of our time, energy, and efforts. So, basically, it's going to be a well rounded group. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to keep it going into late in the nights by having campfire chats in a couple of different locations where the coaches will hang out with you, and they'll be there all weekend to canoe with you, do the high ropes course, archery, all of the traditional camp activities. So it's definitely different in that we're not only going to be interacting with the coaches, but you're going to be living with them for 2 days. So very much looking forward to that. I can't believe I talked to Caleb, who's kind of a little bit more of an indoor boy, into coming to this, but I'm pretty stoked that he is. And we're definitely going to push him outside of his comfort zone a little bit. So I encourage you to join us. That will be worth the tickets alone. And the coolest thing is that the ticket prices are only $11.97. So you can sign up. It includes all of your food, your trip from the airport or your hotel to the camp itself, all of the camp activities, all of the coaching, for less than $1,200, which is my goal to make it accessible. So let's see. We have a couple of other events. I'll just prattle on until Caleb comes back. The next thing that's coming up is Get to Residency in Dubai. That's happening in November. That event is already sold out. However, we also have a Get to Know Dubai service. So it's a shorter trip. It costs significantly less. We're not going to help you with residency, but you'll be able to meet up with a group of people who are there for residency. We'll take tours of different parts of the city, and we'll take advantage of some of the outdoor activities there as well, such as a Dow dinner cruise in the marina, meeting some local business contacts that we have, and then doing a desert safari as well. And that's something we've added on this year to all of our Get Residency programs, is a get to know the city. So if you perhaps think Guadalajara, Mexico might be cool, but I'm not ready to commit, you can come down with us, bring your friends, bring your family, bring your significant other for a shorter period of time, 4 or 5 days, and learn if that's right for you. We're doing the same thing for Paraguay. And right now, Asuncion, Paraguay is probably my favorite travel destination. I really, really love it there. So I'd encourage everyone to come down to Paraguay for a few days as well. And there, we've taken the efforts to learn about a lot of different service providers, such as estheticians for like laser hair removal or dental veneers, etc. So we're trying to create something well-rounded and fun for you.
Am I back?
You're back. So I prattled on about all the get to know things.
I heard some of that. I was able to hear some of it while my wonder was farting around. Sorry about that. Really quick, we'll talk about, we're having another webinar tomorrow as well. Be doing, and maybe you are coming. I forgot what we decided, but anyway, talking about all the events coming up. I'll give you more clarity on that. Something else we're going to talk about, but I don't want to announce it yet. We'll announce it tomorrow. So let's see what else I wanted to cover before we go. How much time do you have?
I have 8 minutes.
I have about. You have. Well, then perfect. All right, good. Let's answer some questions. Hang on. Oh my God, we got a lot of questions. All right, hang on. I'm gonna try not. All right, I'll suffer and put on my.
I like your reading glasses.
You know, they're growing on me now. I mean, I don't hate them as much as I used to. Trying to find where we were. Hang on a second. Here we go. Here's a good question for Billie. Go ahead. You see that, Billie?
I do. So no, I'm definitely not as internationalized as Caleb. My opinion on the collapsing West is not anywhere near as intense as Caleb's. I see things happening. I don't feel the same immediate urges that he does. But the more I learn about traveling to different countries, the more appealing it is to me to plant those flags elsewhere. So for me, it's not as much the collapsing West as it is having experience more around the globe and just making, being a better cultured and knowledgeable person. So it's in my plans, but realistically, I'm based in South Dakota legally. And that's probably the way it'll stay for a few years.
Let's see. Jeremy Coop, your question is long and you didn't finish it. So retype your question and we'll get to it. Let's see. Felix, sorry, we don't have time for Alpha 2.0 questions, but I will get to some of those tomorrow. I will do an Alpha 2.0 webinar in the next week or so because I have been ignoring. I have not been paying attention to you guys. So we will be doing a woman dating thing probably early next week. Let's see.
I don't like being on those, to be honest, guys, because I'm not a non-monogamous person. So I'm cool with not being there for those combos.
Right. What business suite would you prefer to implement? Google Workspace, Microsoft 365, or something else, Billie?
Google, hands down. Yeah. I hate Outlook. It's a pain in the ass in my mind. And I love having all of the different scheduling capabilities through Google and the integrations. So for ease of use and for expense, Google any day of the week.
I agree. I only use Microsoft Office. I have it, but I only use it when I'm forced to. I don't see the point. And you know what? Really quick. I used to do a lot of writing, a lot more writing than I do now. And years ago, I would say 5, 6, 7 years ago, Google Docs was okay, but there are things that just didn't do very well. And you had to use Word. Not true anymore. I have never run into anything that Google Sheets and Google Docs were like, oh, this sucks. I have to use Excel now. I still use Excel for things. But so it is now a absolutely viable replacement for all those systems. So I agree 100%. Yeah. Yes.
And you're right. It used to be much weaker than it is today, especially Docs.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Docs were not made to be printed documents. They were made to be electronic files, which is the difference between Docs and Word.
Right.
And that gap has been bridged.
Right. What is your monetization timeline when starting a new business? Being that it doesn't throw off cash, it's just a hobby, but it's expected to not get cash flow in the beginning. Well, first of all, really quick, you do not consider that a hobby. That's a big mistake a lot of people make. Unless it really is a hobby, you don't care how much money you make out of it. But if it's a business, it's a business. It is not a hobby. I talked about that when I did the webinar about a week or two ago. I talked about how to be a content creator. You have to treat it like a business, even if you're making zero money. So when I started blogging on the internet, making, I was making $200 a month or whatever the fuck way back then, back in 2009. I said, no, this is a business. This is a viable business. I'm going to treat this like a business. And guess what it became pretty quickly? A business. So you keep at it as if it's a business, as if you're paid $1 million a year as a CEO of a big company. You treat with that level of respect in terms of your emotions and in terms of your weekly time. You don't just say, well, maybe this will make money and right now it's a hobby until it makes money. No, that's the wrong attitude to have. What do you think?
There's always an improvement that you can make. So I agree with Caleb. Keep your investment of time and energy consistent. Even if it's only 2 or 3 hours a week, make it something that's static and consistent that you can commit to on a weekly or daily basis. That's what's going to turn it into a monetized business.
Correct. How do you structure your breaks during your day as someone who lives far outside the city? Well, Billie can speak to that because Billie lives in the middle of fucking nowhere. Don't you, Billie?
I do. It's so awesome. I'm such a weirdo, guys. I actually have a little office set up in my garage. So I'll take my laptop out there. I live on an acre of land surrounded by fields and forests, and you literally cannot see a house from where I live. So it's very isolated. I'm 4 miles from a village of like 600 people. So it's very, very isolated.
Man.
The way I take my breaks is whenever the hell I feel like it. Honestly, if I get off of a particularly rigorous call, I have 2 great big dogs that I take the dogs out and take them for a run. I work in my garden, or I'm feeling frustrated about something and the answers aren't coming to me. So instead of trying to press myself on and sitting in front of the computer, I physically move my body. go for a walk, do some gardening, break branches off a tree, chop firewood, do something physical.
Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
that much of an outdoor girl. I do not chop firewood, but you could. But I give myself opportunity to take breaks whenever I feel like it. And I structure my days such.
I will give you the opposite Caleb answer. So you pick whatever answer is most resonant with you, because many of you are not like me. Many of you are more like Billie, and vice versa. I'm Mr. Super Dorky Structure. So I have a model where I do 2 hours on, 15, 20 minutes off, and I time everything. My phone's right over there timing this right now. So I set a timer and I work for 2 hours hardcore. I don't fart around the internet. I don't get up. I don't go to the bathroom. I don't get distracted. I sit there. If I have to put on headphones with binaural beats or lo-fi music to help me focus, I will do that. I hit it hard for 2 hours. 2 hours after the alarm goes off, then I take a break, and it'll be 15, 20 minutes, sometimes half an hour, depends. Rarely it's more than half an hour. And to what Billie said, I will try to get up out of my desk and go do something. If I walk out, or I walk around the house, or do something a little R-rated, Alpha 2.0, what you got to talk about. Or if I don't want to get up my desk, then I will maybe watch a movie clip or something that is not work related, or just rest my brain. And then I do it again, 2 hours, 15, 2 hours, 15. I just talked to a guy. I'm part of a mastermind of guys like me. And a guy, some of you would know his name. What he does is he does 3 hours on and then an hour off. So he'll work for 3 hours and then go work out for an hour, maybe an hour, and then come back in 3 hours and then go have, dinner with his girlfriend. And then 3 hours. So that's what he does. Find a groove that works for you. What Billie does works for her. What I do works for me. It's to figure out what works for you.
So, ultimately, it comes down to either being time or task-based. I tend to be more task-based. So I'll work through a task or a series of tasks versus a time-based system. So it's still systematized for both of us. That's the most important factor, is that you have some system by which you're recording and understand what you need to do.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction. Some people are time-based and some people are task-based. So my problem is I'm time-based. So if I'm working on a task, I'm going to work for 2 hours, 45 minutes, the task is over. If I'm not very prepared, I'm like, what do I work on now? Let's see. And you start farting around and then you lose momentum. So you have to know, if you're time-based, what are you going to do when you're done? What's the very next thing? If you have to sit there and figure out what you're going to do, that goes back to planning your day the night before, which is also what I do. Most nights. Lately, I've been a little busy. I haven't done it. But most nights, normal nights, I will plan out the next day. What tasks am I going to focus on tomorrow? What outcomes do I want for tomorrow? And that way I can be time-focused. Or you're like Billie, and you work on a project. It may take you 45 minutes. It may take you an hour and a half. You're done. You take a break. You come back and work on the next project. Maybe it's 25 minutes. You're done. You take a break. You go back. However long it's on you. Everyone's different. So just be aware. Don't 100% copy anyone. Get clues from different people. Billie and I just give you 2 different models and experiment with those. And one of those will work well for you. Cool. All right. Well, let's do one last question, because Billie and I have got to go. Have this court reported now. Want to record victim witness interviews for military defense lawyers for discovery. That's cool. Am I on the right track? Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, we talked this week. What should I propose? What should I propose to lock this in? Billie, go ahead.
I think it's premature. Have you talked to different attorneys to find out if that's a need that they have? I wouldn't try to lock it in. I'd try to pick his brain. While you're picking his brain, what may happen? Go ahead. I'm sorry. It looks like Caleb's frozen, so I'm going to be right. Just kidding. Go ahead, Caleb. What was your thought? Finish up.
No, you go ahead. Can you hear me now back? I love Mexico. It's my hotel. Am I back or no?
You're back, yes. So I would take this time to investigate, pick his brain. And what very, very often happens when we're doing discovery work and trying to validate our assumptions of need for a product or service is that as we learn more and we say, okay, well, I'm thinking about doing this, and we make it an exchange of information without trying to sell anything at all. Don't try to sell, don't try to close. Find out what the problems are. And as you start offering, in that conversation in a casual way, what you're thinking of doing, what you are doing, what very often happens is that they'll say, hey, by the way, I have a need for this. Once you get this rolling, or if you're ready to go with this, I'm in need, or I know someone that's in need. I think that's a much healthier approach because you're likely to get a better response rather than closing down that potential lead with a no, a negative answer out of the gate. We don't want them to be in the position of giving us a no. We want to be in a position of sharing information. Caleb, what would you say to that?
I have literally to add that it's exactly right. You need to find out who will buy it and how badly do they want to buy it, instead of I like to do this, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to sell it. That is probably one of the biggest mistakes people make. It is a builder program, but even in years of experience prior to this, one of the biggest mistakes people make when they start a business is I have this skill, I'm going to go sell this skill. I have this desire.
And the point that he's making, if he's still frozen for you guys, is that our desire doesn't necessarily equate to a need, or a need that people will pay to solve or fill. So make sure it's something we have to make sure we have to test the waters essentially before we jump in by doing that outreach and validating our assumption that this is something someone will pay for. And it looks like Caleb is on his way back. I'm sorry that we're having the glitches today, guys, but this is part of location independence. And this is part of being an entrepreneur, is we just roll with whatever's happening and deal with it as we're going. Let's see. I'm not able to see questions that are on the board. So let's just prattle on, I guess, for a bit longer. Let's see. There was another question that had come up, and I'm sorry, I'm struggling to remember it. For those of you who don't know, this is only my second live webinar of my life, and I still very much hate being on camera. So this is me putting on my big girl pants and feeling a little bit frustrated that I don't have backup because I'm a chicken. But thank you all for bearing with. You're giving me a good opportunity to get over some of those emotional hurdles that I have too about performing in front of an audience that I don't get visual feedback from. So with that, guys, we're past time. Unfortunately, I have a hard out because I need to do some more teaching. But if you'd like to get a hold of me, reach out to Billie at bosscooperative.com. You can also visit our website, which, guys, is just a placeholder. It's not done. But that is bosscooperative.com. So if you need me, Auntie, your business auntie is here. I'm just a couple of mouse clicks away. And Caleb will be back with you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.